Friends and family of 19-year-old Suzanne Streeter and 18-year-old Stacy McCall say it's not like them to just leave and not tell anyone where they're going.
She calls and lets me know where she's going to be. She's never missed work. She's a very conscientious young woman.
This is Suzanne Streeter's mom, Cheryl Levitt. She's also missing. Last seen at her daughter's graduation ceremony at Hammond Student Center on Saturday. She lived in this house on East Delmar in Springfield. That's where police found the three missing women's cars. Authorities say there was no sign of a struggle.
32 years have gone by since the disappearances of Suzanne Susie Streeter, Stacy McCall, and Susie's mother, Cheryl Levitt. Following their graduation from Kickapoo High School, graduates Stacy and Susie were enjoying themselves at multiple house parties to celebrate their accomplishments. Following the parties, the two friends decided to return to Susie's home, where she and her mother resided. That night in 1992, the three women vanished from sight and were never heard from again. On Saturday, June 6, 1992, 18-year-old Stacy and 19-year-old Susie had recently graduated from Kickapoo High School. That evening, the two best friends and several others went to multiple house parties to celebrate. They were going to travel to Branson later that night so they could visit Whitewater the next day. Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, received a call from her daughter at approximately 10:30 p.m. Stacy said Susie and she would be staying at their friend Janelle Kirby's house, and that the group had chosen to postpone driving to Branson until the following morning. But the Kirby residence was a little packed because it was graduation week. Around 2 a.m., Susie and Stacy left the Kirbys and decided to travel to Susie's house. They each took their own car from Kirby's to Susie's residence at 1717 East Delmar Street. Susie's 47-year-old mother, Cheryl, was last heard from at approximately 11:15 p.m. on that evening. She was painting a chest of drawers and talking on the phone with a friend. Photos taken at the house on June 7, 1992, show the girls arriving at Susie's home. Their personal belongings were still there and their cars were parked in front. But at about 8 in the morning, Kirby tried to call the house, but no one answered. Kirby and her boyfriend made multiple attempts to contact the Streeters' residence before deciding to make the drive there around 12:30 p.m. The couple's attention was initially drawn to the broken glass on the front porch, which was from the front porch light. Kirby's boyfriend cleared the glass. The front door was unlocked, but in the 1990s, kidnappings and murders were not common in Springfield, thus this was accepted as normal. When the couple went inside the home, they discovered some of McCall, Streeter, and Levitt's personal belongings. Susie's bed appeared to have been climbed into by the girls just hours prior, and the house was neat and orderly. The pair also observed that Cinnamon, Susie, and Levitt's dog was acting more jittery than normal. Additionally, they discovered packs of cigarettes left behind. Since Susie and Cheryl were known to smoke and typically wouldn't leave their smokes behind, Kirby and her boyfriend thought this was strange. Kirby and her boyfriend started phoning people they thought could have information on the whereabouts of the women after finding no trace of them. Nobody knew anything.
They said they were going to the other girl's house and they were going to be spending the night there, and they'd call me in the morning so we could go to Whitewater. And they never called me in the morning, so I called them, and I called them. They said,
Steve Thompson is the last person police know of who might have talked to Cheryl Levitt. He was working his normal after-midnight shift at this Southside convenience store 2 Sundays ago when a woman stuck her head in the door, a woman he thinks was Cheryl Levitt.
Stuck her head in. She asked if I had seen 3 girls. And I said, hold on just a second. And I finished taking the money from the customer, and then I walked around the counter to the door, and she asked if I had seen Susie, a brunette girl, and another blonde girl in the last hour and a half to 2 hours. To me, she wasn't upset. She was maybe hyper, she was in a hurry, obviously. I just assumed as a concerned parent.
Thompson thinks Levitt's daughter, Susie Streeter, was in the store that night a few hours earlier.
Susie and Stacy and another girl that I don't recall ever seeing were in there earlier the evening. I'm not sure on the time. It could be anywhere from 10 to 11, 11:30, somewhere in between there.
Janice McCall's worries about her daughter Stacy grew as the day went on. Her daughter had always called her parents to let them know where she was. Through Kirby's sister, Janice learned that Stacy had gone to Susie's house rather than Kirby's for the night. Janice started calling the Streeter home, just like Kirby, but nobody picked up. Janice got into her car and drove herself to the Streeter-Levitt residence on the evening of June 7, 1992. There were about 10 other curious people at 1717 Delmar Street besides Janice. As the evening wore on, Janice made the decision to call the police. It wasn't long before police arrived on the scene. Law enforcement realized that the three women had not left voluntarily. The police suspected foul play. I don't remember if it was that day or night that the crime scene van was pulled in front of Susie and Cheryl's house, and that yellow tape was put up saying crime scene, and not to enter, said McCall. Before long, the police station was inundated with tips and reports regarding sightings of Janice McCall's daughter. I remember the different calls that they would say they had seen them. They said they had seen Stacy driving a little red sports car down Battlefield. Well, it wasn't Stacy, it was our oldest daughter. I remember calls that said they were cut up into pieces. I remember one that said they were fed to the hogs. You know, horrifying things for a mom to hear, said McCall. Only a few days after the women vanished, on Tuesday, June 9, 1992, the FBI was asked to assist with the investigation. More than 20,000 posters had been displayed across Springfield by Wednesday, June 10th. Today, some of these posters may still be found in shops. There were searches done all throughout the community. Investigators conducted polygraph tests to individuals in close proximity to the women, while divers examined Lake Springfield and a section of the James River. Tips kept coming in as days became weeks and weeks became months. A green van that was spotted around 1717 East Delmar was one of the case's initial tips. A woman who claims to have seen a van being driven by Susie Streeter the morning of the disappearance provided the tip to the police. Thousands of vans were searched by authorities, and one van was even painted green and parked outside the police station. Former prosecuting attorney Darrell Moore said everybody on this case wanted it resolved. Moore was one of the dozens of investigators who spent days, sleepless nights, and hundreds of hours trying to solve this case. Through the years, there have been various leads, but it got to the point where even today I still get calls from people. Moore said. Retired Springfield Police Sergeant David Asher said, "I just felt like when we were given the case, when we actually got it late, we didn't start from the very beginning." Who were the suspects? Bart Streeter. Springfield police looked into Bart, Susie's brother, early on in the investigation. However, Bart had an alibi and was cleared of suspicion. Robert Craig Cox. Cox had been released from a Florida prison on a trial technicality. He was convicted of killing a woman in Florida but was free and in Springfield at the time the women disappeared. He stirred up a lot of interest, and there was some concern that he may have been playing people so he could get transported back here and get out of prison for a bit, said Moore. At the time, Cox's girlfriend claimed that Cox was with her the night of the disappearance. Years later, she told police that Cox was not with her that evening and withdrew her account. After being imprisoned in Texas, Cox consented to an interview regarding the three women who went missing. During the interview, Cox said, "I know they are dead. I'll say that, and I know that." Cox refused to give any more details. As of 2022, the Springfield Police Department labeled the case as a cold case. If you have any information about the disappearances of Stacy, Susie, and Cheryl, you are asked to contact the police department at 417-864-1810 or call Crime Stoppers at 417-869-8477.
Joining us on this Tuesday, it's been 30 years since 3 Springfield women went missing. It's our area's highest profile cold cases, one that's attracted a following across the country.
Steve and Jennifer, you can still see these 3 candles lit here tonight to remember Cheryl Levitt, Susie Streeter, and Stacy McCall. But earlier today, there were tons of candles lit to remember those 3 women. Now, loved ones brought missing person signs describing these women and when they were last seen.
I hope that these candles being lit will be just one way of lighting their way back to answers. All we want is answers. And if you know someone that has the answers, please let them know that it's okay to come and tell us. It's okay to go to the police and tell them. You know, all we want is the answers.